Basically everywhere you go, everybody's it's kind of like common sense at this point that the more expensive a gadget, the better it is. But is that really true? And is that really true when it comes to smartphones? Hi guys, and I'm back again. It's good to be back in the chair. So today I want to talk about a very simple topic that I think lots of people will probably be interested in hearing. Is price right? Is price right? Now, because lots of people who are in the smartphone space, who buy smartphones, who use smartphones, the guys on your street, the ones at the corner, the ones at the barber store, the ones at the... Did I just say barber store? They're everywhere, basically. Your school, your place of work, your place of worship. Basically everywhere you go, everybody's... it's kind of like, common sense at this point that the more expensive a gadget, the better it is. But is that really true? And is that really true when it comes to smartphones? All right, let's generally speaking, the more expensive a thing is, the better it should be, right? It's kind of like a rule, and for the most part it's true, and lots of people actually use that to guide their decision-making process when it comes to buying stuff. Like if something costs $1,000, for example, and then something costs $200, for example, it stands to reason that the $1,000 object, device, electronic, whatever, would probably be much more better than the $200 item. I think that nobody is going to argue with that as a fact. Nobody would or nobody should. But there are always exceptions to every rule, and what I'm going to discuss about today is actually more than just an exception. It's actually kind of like an opposite trend to what many people hold as common sense or general knowledge, right? So I was talking to a friend, right, because when the Redmi Note 10 when the Redmi 10C came out, right? When the Redmi 10C came out, I was quite excited because he reached out to me and he was like he wanted to get a new phone, but he was on a budget, right? He was on a budget, and we started looking at available phones within his really tight budget. And due to the type of person that he was a gamer, and he also he wasn't really that much of a photographer. He took some pictures, and so we're like within the sub 100,000 naira range, and we're looking at like phones, and we're just like, what, you should settle on the Redmi Note 11. And he was like, yeah, he likes the phone, but the budget is an issue. And since that one was around that 100,000 naira range, so when the Redmi 10C came out, and seeing that it was quite comparable with the Redmi Note 11 spec wise, we're like, we should probably get this one. They are basically the same specs, apart from some, obviously they are not the same price, right? They are not the same category when you put it, but basically both phones were the same in terms of the main key specs, to SoC, the main cameras, battery, charging speed may not be the same thing, but it was almost the same phone, right? So we got it. Right, he got it, and we've been like going over the phone, and it's been very nice, really. And so a friend of his was like, you bought that 78,000 naira phone? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, man, I use a Redmi 10, and so since my phone is more expensive, it's better than yours. And he was like, you know what, game on. And that's the funny part of it. His 78k phone beat the Redmi 10, which is actually a lot much more expensive, photography wise, game wise. And that's the funny part. When you put both phones together, the Redmi 10 uses a MediaTek Helio G88, whilst the Redmi 10C, which is actually the more cheaper device, uses a Snapdragon 680. Both phones have the same cameras and the same battery and all that, but the cheaper phone was actually besting and surpassing the more expensive phone, right? So like that's one of the examples. Now that would take us into the world of price skimming and overpricing. It's a real thing. It's actually something I have been railing against for 2 or 3 years, when I found out that companies were actually price skimming and duping customers, because they'd start off at a really unrealistic price, and then it skim it all the way down to like the real actual price. So most people who rush out to get a new phone, like phone that's trending on the first day, what you are just paying for is the hype that you're the first to use that kind of phone. So lots of people actually do not know that a thing called price skimming exists. Price skimming means pricing something outrageously high and then skimming prices off the top until it gets to its real level. Then overpricing is also a thing. There was a phone with a MediaTek Helio G95 that was sold for over 200k naira, and that same phone, like lots of people who bought that phone, they were like, wow, the phone is over 200k, surely it must be very good. No. Just because you see a certain price at a certain price point doesn't necessarily always mean, yes, there's a general rule, agreed, but there are always exceptions to every rule, and there will always be. And in the world that we are in now, sometimes you have to try out the rule book. The rule books in a lot of cases now do not really matter. You need to go on a case by case basis. Price isn't always right. You can take a 223k Tecno Phantom X and a 160k Redmi Note 10 Pro, and I don't have to tell you which one is better. You can sort that out by yourself. That's like one of the examples of like where price isn't always right. So there are tons of other examples, but I'm making this without a script, and that's one of like the first examples that came to mind. You can also look at the Redmi 10 and the Redmi 10C, as I've earlier explained. Price isn't always right. This message is for people who strongly believe that so long as phone A is 150,000, phone B is 110,000, phone A is obviously better. No, Samsung are notorious for overpricing, right? There are other companies that overprice or do price skimming. Umidigi, for example, is one, although they've gone off the ball of late. I'm not really sure about them now. The LG have left the market. Motorola, right? So, but Samsung is actually very culpable when it comes to overpricing. Vivo, Oppo, in fact, OP overpriced. That's kind of like a joke we have. So it's not all the phones that they have that are all overpriced though, no, but you can be very sure that if you take a 680 Snapdragon 680 phone from Xiaomi, you take a Snapdragon 680 phone from Samsung, both the same performance with maybe slight differences in cameras and battery, and then hold them up together, you will see that there is a huge discrepancy in pricing. So for the people who hold that thought that price is right, no, price is not right. It is not always right. Make sure to do your findings, check your spec sheets. I would say watch reviews, but nowadays reviews are mostly paid advert. But that's that, and I will be out. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.